education. Our next speaker is Ms. Devi, who's joining us from the EU. Just to kind of remind everyone, the three speakers actually represent three different segments of the education system. So Dr. Chita, who's just with us, is more higher education. Kotaro-san, Benesse covers the whole gamut. And then Devi here is more focused on the K-12 segment. So Devi, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mike. We all experience the world changing at such a rapid pace, yet the majority of learning institutions are remaining stuck with methods of the past. According to a report by the Institute for the Future of Work, the top jobs in 2050 will be AI psychologists, chief productivity officers, and caregivers to the aging population. What do these three jobs have in common? The understanding of people. In the first case, understanding tech in order to relate to people. In the second case, understanding company mission and culture to transcend within a company. Fundamentally, people skills. Today, I'm going to talk about how it might make sense for us to turn back the pendulum to focus on foundational soft skills for K-12. My name is Devi, and I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Ascend Now. We aim to normalize student entrepreneurship. A little bit about myself. I moved to Singapore at age 23 after my one and only job in investment banking in New York. I had spent a little time tutoring in college, and I really missed that. So one afternoon at Goldman Sachs, I decided to Google the top education systems globally, and Singapore pops up. So I book a one-way ticket to Singapore, not knowing anyone, to start what is today Ascend Now. A lot of people thought I was crazy. My parents most definitely did. And like many things, what is said is usually much easier than what is done. So I moved to Singapore, I put my name on a lot of freelance tutoring websites, and in 2 years, I found myself going door to door tutoring different academic subjects. After those 2 years, we expanded, we hired 80 tutors, we hired a core team, and we moved all the operations online. And while the company saw success and growth, I didn't really feel like we were solving a problem. In fact, I felt like we were enhancing a problem. We were just improving or helping students improve what they were doing in the current education system today. According to a McKinsey article, the pandemic has accelerated the demand for social and emotional skills by 60% globally. I really wanted to find out what skills were important to teach kids that would bridge the gap between K-12, higher education, and the workforce. So what we did, and in order to remain as objective as possible, we spoke to about 100 HR executives from different industries and different verticals like advertising, education, finance. We also spoke to parents, we spoke to educators, we spoke to K-12 content creators. Some of them are on this call today. But most importantly, we spoke to students. It's funny, I find myself quite often on these panels about youth and education, and usually the youngest person at these conferences is 35 or 40 or 45. And don't get me wrong, I'm heading into my 30s soon too, but I really think it's important to get the perspective of a teenager, of kids, of students. So that's what we did. Here's what we found. The top 5 skills of the future: self-awareness, people skills, self-confidence, intrinsic motivation, and agility. It's quite interesting that 3 out of these 5 are what we call me skills, skills to do with the self, right? Like self-awareness, self-confidence, intrinsic motivation. And 2 out of the 5 of them are we skills, to do with others, people skills or agility. And it occurred to me that during this entrepreneurship journey myself, when I started the company, I had really developed some of these skills, or I was working to develop them. Before starting Ascend, I had very little self-awareness. I had very little people skills. I'm not even sure I have great people skills today, but I definitely was improving them a little bit. And so we asked each other, what if we used entrepreneurship as a pathway, as a vehicle to teach kids these skills? After all, entrepreneurship empowers students. It gives students a voice. So many young learners today want to partake in building up their countries, building up their futures. But this desire sometimes finds itself at odds with the current education system that is so focused on instruction. So we gave birth to this entrepreneurship program that teaches kids really to learn, to unlearn, to adapt, to fail, to reapply. It fosters this type of mindset that is critical to any part of your life. I want to share with you guys two examples. On the left-hand side, you have a student who's 15 years old. Her name is Portia. She started a company called Intern Ed. The focus of Intern Ed is to democratize internships for high school students. During this process, she pitched to maybe 30, 40 companies to help her be on her platform. And out of those 30, 40 companies, 6 of them agreed. And today she supports almost 80 students by giving them free internships. She identified this need and she saw this problem, her own problem of finding internships, and she decided to turn that problem into an opportunity. On the right-hand side is another example. This one is really near and dear to my heart. Ari Rahmat, when I met him, was 12 years old. And I went for coffee with him in Singapore. And I remember him telling me, Devi, I really feel stuck. I don't know what my calling is. And it's so funny because I think so many people say that irrespective of age. So I told him, why don't you try entrepreneurship? So he decided to start a company called Connect Us. The focus of Connect Us is student-to-student networking. You can connect with different students on this app for any reason, to talk about life, to talk about gaming, to talk about homework. And so after he developed this company, he partook in what we call a bullpen or a shark tank for kids. And in this shark tank, he ended up making it to the semifinals. And he was so happy and so proud of himself. And then after, he didn't end up making it to the finals. He just made it to that first round. So after the semifinals, I asked Ari, do you mind reflecting with us? What were your learnings? So I have a short video here that I would like to share, a tangible example.
It's an emotion of roller coasters. When we found out we made it into the finals, when we made it into the semi-finals, it was full of emotions. Like, we were excited, we were stressed, we were happy. But honestly, all in all, it's probably the closest experience I have ever received to launching an actual business. The past 2 to 3 months was pretty interesting, not gonna lie. I dedicated a lot of time to Shark Tank and the reward was worth the work, as I can now have a stronger understanding of the real world and the business world. Even though I didn't exactly win and my partner and I didn't actually win, I feel like it's part of the process, because you win, you lose. Really, it doesn't matter in the real world whether you win or lose, because in the end, you still have to keep trying and keep trying and keep trying again. I feel like that's something we should probably take note from this.
So to summarize and to quote my COO, I think there's a reason the ed precedes the tech in the words edtech. Together, let's capture this potential of the youth, because I promise you, they are so much smarter than we think. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Devi. Excellent presentation. Just a couple quick questions, and then we'll move on to a group Q&A. I like how you've systematically kind of gone through a process of determining what these skills of the future in relation to future of learning are, especially in the younger segment. But one of the, I guess, main questions is in terms of integrating these skills into existing systems. How do you see that happening, especially when there's not the same systems of accountability or even curriculum around particular topics? Like, how do you take things that aren't traditionally within the existing education system and then embed them and give them importance and validate them, etc.?
Yeah, Mike, I think, to kind of emphasize Qatar's point, it's a tricky balance, right? Especially when you're working with schools and K-12 schools or even higher education, because the pace of which content changes is just so slow, right? We had a call with the IB, the International Baccalaureate, a couple of weeks ago, and we asked them, how often do you adapt content? And they said every 6 to 16 years. So it's too slow, right? That's the issue. I do think, that being said, that a lot of schools are more open than they come across, and they are trying to teach these 21st century skills, and a lot of them teach them really, really well. But fundamentally, you can use any vehicle, I think, to teach these skills, whether that's entrepreneurship or maths or economics. It's just about more emphasis on the skills portion rather than more emphasis on the assessment portion. I think both are important, but when I graduated high school, I couldn't carry a conversation with anyone I haven't met before. I couldn't network. And now you find that we have a lot of students that are grade 11 and 12, they're building their resumes and they're asking us, can you teach us networking? So I really think the desire is there. I think the movement's not going to, it's not going to be overnight, but slowly, as most schools adopt this, and we've had success with quite a few schools, like HELP in Malaysia, UWC, and a few others. As more schools adopt that framework, it can change. I have hope in that.